Hi, this is Mrs. Lockett, and I am doing the flipped classroom notes for Chapter 5 on macromolecules. I'm going to do this in two sections. The first section will be carbohydrates and lipids, and the second section will be proteins and nucleic acids. So let's get started. Okay, so a couple of words that you should know, but you need to make sure that you know, is monomer, which means a single unit, polymer, which is many units together. Dehydration synthesis is the process of joining two monomers or joining two molecules while removing a water. So the dehydration means to remove the water and the synthesis means to build. And so I am building polymers by removing water between the two molecules that are being joined. Hydrolysis is the exact opposite of that. Hydrolysis is when I split a polymer by adding a water molecule. I add the hydrogen ion to one side and the hydroxide ion to the other side, and the molecule will split into two molecules. So I have a graphic here on the next page for it. So you can see that dehydration synthesis is over here on, let me get my pointer on. Dehydration synthesis is over here on the left, and you've got it doesn't matter what kind of molecule this is. You've got hydrogen or hydroxides and hydrogens, and you lose those two functional groups. They join to become water, and then you have bonded your monomers into polymers. And then this is, of course, the exact opposite. Here I have the three monomers all together to make the polymer, and I add a water in. The hydrogen ion goes to one side, the hydroxide goes to the other side, and I am splitting it into two molecules. Okay, so here is the mind map for all of it, and I'm going to do the left side of this today. And so the pink is carbohydrates, the peach is lipids, the yellow is nucleic acids, and the green is proteins. So we're going to get two of these done in this particular video. Okay. All right, so carbohydrates. You've got, let's see, where? Okay, so monosaccharides, mono means one, saccharide means sugar, and the general formula for all of the carbohydrates is CH2O to the N, and that means that for every one carbon there is a water, okay? So you've got one carbon per water, which is why the whole group is called carbohydrates. Okay? And the main function of these molecules is for energy and to make building blocks for polymers. Okay? Monosaccharides will be joined by glycosidic linkages, so that's just the fancy name for the dehydration synthesis, is a glycosidic linkage. And that's going to form disaccharides. Disaccharides just means that it's two together. One example of that would be sucrose, which has a chemical formula of C12H22O11. And hopefully you are realizing that instead of having C12H24O12, you've removed one water, and that's why it is C12H22O11, because when you bond those two monomers together, you lose one water. The disaccharides and monosaccharides, of course, get connected together to form polysaccharides, poly meaning many. And the function of these is going to be energy storage compounds. You do need to know that glycogen is what animals make. So we store glucose in our livers and make glycogen out of it, and that is a nice compact way to put all those glucose molecules together for when our blood sugar drops and we need some glucose. Plants are going to put it together as starch, and fortunately we can break starch down. So when we eat starches for food, we are getting glucose into our bodies, and that's a good thing. Other structural compounds include cellulose, which is also in plants, and it is actually the component of the cell wall. And it is a different form of glucose that's bonded, and it is not digestible by mammals. So There are things like termites that can break it down. There's bacteria that can break it down, but we cannot break down cellulose. So, and just as an FYI, cellulose is the most abundant organic molecule on the planet because of all the trees and plants. And then over here we have chitin, which is found in the shells. Oops, wait a minute, go back. Found in the shells of insects. And it is, again, glucose, and then I believe there's a nitrogen added, a nitrogen group added to give it that strength and that toughness that will allow it to be a good exoskeleton. So, carbohydrates, carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, 1 carbon, 2 hydrogens, 1 oxygen, instant energy and structural. And I think those are the main, the highlights of that particular macromolecule. Okay, the next one is lipids. Also carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. So a little bit the same and yet a lot different. So lipids are all put together because they are hydrophobic and insoluble in water. So this entire group is put together because it is hydrophobic or insoluble in water. It's nonpolar. Okay? So there are 3 different groups that you need to be familiar with. The first one that I'm going to talk about is triglycerides over here. So that's going to be kind of the food versions of your lipids. And so they are composed of a glycerol molecule, which is a 3-carbon alcohol. And also you'll have 2 or 3, I guess triglycerides will have 3 fatty acid chains. Okay, and these guys are going to, they store energy in the carbon-hydrogen bonds. So the fatty acids are very long chains of carbon with hydrogens usually on both sides and a carboxyl at the group, or a carboxyl group at the end, and they are they store the energy, and they actually will enter into energy processing systems later on than glucose will. So they're totally usable. The long hydrocarbon chains can be unsaturated or saturated. So saturated is going to be your oils. They are liquid at room temperature, so like corn oil, canola oil, olive oil. These are all different lipids that are unsaturated fats. And the reason they're called unsaturated is because they have these carbon chains and the hydrogens, but they have some double bonded carbons in there. So if you break the double bonds, you could add more hydrogen. So they're unsaturated because there's still room for more hydrogen to be added onto them. And then you have your saturated fatty acids, which are going to be solid at room temperature, and that would be things like lard and like your bacon fat. It's, it will solidify at room temperature. So generally plant for the unsaturated and animal for the saturated. Not a hard and fast rule, but a little bit. The second form of lipids that you need to know are the phospholipids. These are super important because they are going to be the main component of our lipid bilayers for all of our cells. So super duper important. They have a glycerol molecule again. They have 2 fatty acid chains, and then they have a phosphate group that's stuck at the 3rd carbon of the glycerol molecule. And they are going to form a charged hydrophilic head that's going to always be on the water side, so it'll either be on the outside or it will be on the inside where the cytoplasm is, because those are both watery environments. And the hydrophobic fatty acid tails will be sandwiched in the middle. And I'm sure you can remember from biology, they look like a circle with 2 little lines, and the little lines are together in the center, like the Oreo cream. And the hydrophilic heads would be the 2 cookies, so on the outside. And then finally, our 3rd group of lipids are the steroids. And the steroids may function as chemical messengers. You've got all of the hormones like estrogen and aldosterone, things like that, that are all chemical messengers that tell your body to do different things. And they've also got things like cholesterol. So not a chemical messenger, but definitely a very important molecule for our cells and for our bodies. And these are signified by a 4-ring structure. So whenever you see these 4 rings, it'll be like 1, 2, and then 1, 2, and then they'll have a long chain off of the top of it. And those are going to be your steroids. Again, completely different from the triglycerides and the phospholipids, but their similarity is in the fact that they are hydrophobic and insoluble in water. Let's see. A couple other things that you should probably know about our lipids is that they are important for coverings and insulation. So blubber and whales, the cuticle on leaves are made out of waxes, which are part of this group. So the cell membranes, insulation, waterproofing, and chemical messengers are all different jobs that the lipids have. Okay, so that is the end of those first 2 groups of macromolecules, and I will cover the other ones in the next video. So there's chapter 5, part 2. Have a good day.